What's a good time for 60 workers? I'm gonna do that for you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're gonna visit the fundamentals of StarCraft, and one of my favorite fundamentals is learning how to drone your 3 bases, which is super important. Mega super important. I'm gonna open up Stasis. Let's do a ZVP 3 base saturation plan. Most of your matches across your matchups are not won or lost based on rock, paper, scissors, and it is one of my personal missions to try and dispel this intuitive approach to StarCraft. Human intuition, we see different types of units, we lose a match, and the first thing that pops into our head was, should I have made different types of units? Normally, the answer to that is no. The answer to that is more subtle, and it involves more of how to power yourself up in general, just to a strong position. And the difference between, say, a MOBA game or an FPS game and StarCraft is it's not just about the interaction of the fights, it's the management of the economy. So look very closely at this larva. The larva represents potential for something to happen. Anytime there's larva that's not being made, there should be an incredibly good reason for that. And that should be, if you're looking at your own replays for the purpose of analysis, one of your top priorities. It's huge. It's like monumentally large. I just need as many words as I possibly can muster to indicate how hyper important this is. Stuff should be tight. It should be crisp. If your build was a disaster, well, you know what to do. You gotta focus on your build, or find a build that actually works, that's moving you in some direction. So I'm holding down the drone button. I have rapid fire, which is a really nice way to get these workers out really fast. I'm just droning away. You can box your units here and there. I wouldn't even worry, like if you're in one of the mid leagues or something, don't even worry about trying to get 2 workers on each patch. It's not affecting you that much. What's affecting you is idle larva, proper saturation of your bases, and supply management. Do those things, and be aware of how many workers you have, and you'll be GM faster than, well, actually that's kind of hard. But you'll do better. How about that? So we're going for 20 workers. I'm just practicing this in the laboratory setting, where I have no opponent. I'm gonna make lings. 4 lings, 2 queens. This is all pretty normal stuff. I'm gonna pull 2 workers off gas. Boom, ling speed at 100 gas. That's a problem I see over and over again, and we're droning and droning and droning. Ling speed first 100 gas. When that upgrade finishes, you have something to say to adepts. You have map control if you want to. You can make more lings. This should be crisp, it should be sharp. Your gas spending early on should be very, very sharp. 30 supply? Let's go take a 3rd base, because Zerg has the edge of production. Not only does making this hatch increase the number of bases I can harvest from, it also increases my production, because the production facility of Zerg is the hatchery. I'm droning really fast. Droning so fast with the 30 Overlord. As my money gets up, I'm gonna make another queen. This queen is gonna be posted defense for an adept. These lings can defend behind. 34 supply. 1 Overlord finished, we make more supply. You see that? There's always 1 Overlord about to be born in the early game. Just like as Terran, you may have 1 dedicated SCV. Let's make 3 more lings. 3 more pairs so we can beat adepts. Still droning, still droning. This Overlord's gonna spot over there. I wouldn't even worry about Overlord placement for this exercise. You can focus on that later. The most important thing is really powering up with tons of workers. 3:30 is a good time to refill the gas if you pulled a little bit off. But pulling off gas, again, is a fairly advanced maneuver. I wouldn't really recommend that if you're brand new to the game. Gotta keep things simple for yourself. I'm just droning. Look at this, 16 out of 16. I'm just gonna change the rally to my 3rd. And now I'm still holding down the drone button. Okay, the 3rd is done. I'm making 2 Overlords now, because my supply is moving up faster, because my income is going even faster. Because I have more drones. Because I've made more drones. Drones, 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 drones. The 2 overlords are done. Let's make another 2 overlords. See that? 1, 2. All the bases are injected constantly. Let's take a lair. Let's get an Evo. These 10 lings can defeat the 2 adepts. Roach Warren. Oh my goodness. This natural doesn't have 16 workers, so I'm going to set the main rally there. And I'm still droning. How fast can we physically get to 60 workers? This is mostly kind of minimalist in terms of defense. But we did make some queens for defense. Look at this. Boom, 64. 64 workers before 5 minutes. Just by droning with the larva as soon as we get it, and by not being supply blocked. So there's your reference of how many workers should Zerg be making in the early game. As much as physically possible is usually the answer. Because Protoss with Chrono Boost tends to hit a power spike at around 2 base saturation. We don't really hit our power spike until 3 base saturation. But once we do, we can make a ton of units, like 7 overlords. I just made 7. Roach speed is going. Let's make 11 overlords. Let's make 1 spore per base. Okay, so we have 64 workers. How fast can we hit 200 supply? This is the question that I have right now. This is ZVP, sure. It doesn't really matter that it's ZVP. Could be Zerg versus anything. If you have the space to drone, then you should drone. It's better to drone than to make units. If you make units, you're hiring a specialist who is trained in the ways of attacking stuff. So those units should immediately have a purpose of, say, taking a watchtower, beating 2 adepts, poking the wall, delaying the 3rd, that kind of stuff. You can get a 4th base too. Now I'm droning up, or roaching up. I'm just making all roaches now, because we have enough room for activities to hit 200 supply. So I'll be hecked if we're not going to hit 200 supply. Bases are injected, 4th base, camera location. And this is kind of reminiscent of the Stefano Roach Max, in a way. It's not exactly the same build, but the principle is the same. And part of the reason he was so dominant was because he figured out that power spike. That if you're Zerg, and you saturate your 3 bases really fast, and you summon up a ton of roaches, you can hit 200 supply physically faster than either Protoss or Terran. They just can't. StarCraft is asymmetrically balanced. The strength of Zerg is production, so his strategy revolved around hitting 3 base of production and saturation faster, and then using a supply-hungry unit, but a very health-dense unit, to just blast up to 200 supply. Wow. Look at this. And we're maxed. Just like that, 730. It wasn't even perfect. We did make a couple spores, some dedicated defense units, but 730, we have a massive army. And then we can think about a plan B. We've got a Hydra Den and +2 ranged. So we go attack with this, and then right before we go attack, before we focus on our micro, we're going to inject, so I'm going to practice that here. We have our army. That's awesome. It's running and running. +1 attack roaches. 1. This guy, 2, 3, 4. And then now we can focus really hard on our micro because we know that our bases are injected. And then as we fight, let's say we A move and we're losing a bunch of roaches, you would hatch his larva and then remax with a higher tech unit. Would be a cool thing that you could do. But this is as fundamental as it gets. Just your ability to hit your saturation benchmarks really fast. If you're losing games and you're in platinum, newsflash, it's not because of rock, paper, scissors questions at all. It's because of the fundamentals. The fundamental ability to max out fast with the good economy. There you go.